So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Catherine Matlis from Education USA. If you are not familiar with Education USA, we have centers in over 450 locations around the world. And our main purpose is to help people who are interested in higher education programs in the United States to learn more about the process of choosing universities, the admission process, and obtaining your visa. Today, we're happy to be joined by Drexel University, and I'd like to present Penny Hamrich, who is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Graduate Studies in the School of Education at Drexel. Good afternoon, Penny.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm happy to be here today with my colleagues who I'll introduce in a second. We're here to discuss applying to a doctoral degree program in the United States. We're going to go over an overview of the programs, the admission process, and career expectations. Joining me today is Kapil Dandekar. He is a professor and associate dean in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Dr. Dave Goldberg, he is a professor and associate dean in the Department of Physics. And Dr. Christopher Laincz, who is a professor and a program director in the School of Economics. If you have a question while I'm going through the PowerPoint, if you just go to the chat and write down your question, one of my colleagues will answer your question along the way. So what we're going to go over today is why should you do a PhD program? Why should you choose it? What are the types of different doctoral programs? What are the career pathways towards getting a PhD? What are the application requirements? And what international student considerations must you expect? And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So I'll give you a moment to read this quote. It paints a picture of what it's like to be in a PhD program. You'll have highs, you'll have valleys, but the one thing you need to have is passion for research and for the area in which you want to explore, because you'll be spending a considerable amount of time doing research and reading and writing about this area. We'll talk further in a little bit about how long that takes, but this quote just kind of captures the journey of being in a PhD program. So why do a PhD program? 1, because you're passionate about research. 2, you're devoted to learning. 3, you're interested in intellectual pursuits within educational, professional, and societal sectors. And you're considering a career in academia, either as a professor, a researcher, perhaps an administrator. These are just some of the reasons that you should consider a PhD. So this chart gives you an overview of the career goals, what the degree is designed for, and what your expectations that you have prior to coming into the program. And it goes over the PhD, a master's, a professional master's, and a professional doctorate. So as you can see, the career goals are a little bit different. For the PhD, really, it's focused on research, academia, perhaps government jobs, nonprofits, entrepreneurship. For a master's, you're looking to get more in-depth knowledge in the field, in industry, government work, and it's a stepping stone to go into a PhD program. If you're looking for a professional master's, your career goal is for career advancement and career change. And a professional doctorate students choose that for career advancement and more research skills. So we're talking here today about the PhD program. So what is it designed for? It provides intensive training to produce high quality research, depth and breadth in a specialized knowledge base, and training as an instructor for higher education. Your class profile or what you need in order to apply for a PhD program is either a bachelor's or a master's degree. So just a quick slide on the difference between a master's versus a PhD. So I indicated in the previous slide that a master's degree will increase your knowledge within a particular discipline, and its focus is to help you work as a professional, or it is a stepping stone to a PhD program. For a PhD, you have a love of learning, of scientific inquiry, and of becoming an expert in a particular field, and you want to pursue your passion in academia or research. So what does a PhD prepare you for? Well, it prepares you to be a researcher. Through leadership in your chosen field, you'll be publishing on the frontiers of knowledge, making novel, relevant contributions to society on important issues. It also prepares you to be an educator, to share your knowledge, teaching students, teaching companies, teaching others. And it also prepares you for career expectations. Most PhDs go into the academy, become professors doing research and teaching. Others go into industry, nonprofits, and government jobs are also other areas that PhDs may pursue. And also a career expectation is consulting avenues. Okay, so the PhD program overview, continue. What are the general requirements? So the PhD program will take on average 4 to 6 years. And remember that previous slide where I had you read that quote? It's a long journey, and so you need to be passionate about research and about the field in which you want to explore. Usually the coursework takes 2 years, and part of your experience besides coursework is you'll be participating as a teaching assistant, you'll be doing research, you'll be working closely with a faculty advisor, you'll be taking a candidacy exam at the end of your coursework, and then after the candidacy exam, you'll start working on your dissertation proposal. Once that's approved, then you'll do your study, you'll analyze it, you write it up, and then you'll do your dissertation defense. And so that entire process takes anywhere from 4 to 6 years. It really depends on the topic that you choose to research and the type of methodology that you use in that research that you're exploring on the number of years that takes. So more on the PhD program. The PhD program provides professional development as a researcher. You'll be participating in seminar presentations and talks. You'll be going to academic conferences and participating and presenting. You'll be submitting or be part of a team that submits grants and other funding opportunities. You'll be submitting articles, manuscripts to academic journals. You'll be providing, participating in teaching experience through being teaching assistants, and you'll be participating in mentoring experiences. Financial aid. So many programs provide full or partial support for 4 to 5 years. Full support usually means that you'll be provided a stipend and tuition. And the stipend is usually some sort of an assistantship where you're teaching or doing research and you're paid for those services. And the tuition covers the cost of the education. In some cases, additional fellowships are available on a competitive basis. Some programs provide partial support, and this may mean that tuition is only covered or the stipend is only covered, one or the other, but not both. And some programs will not fund you until you reach the 2nd or 3rd year. So those are things to look into when you're looking at various programs around the country. In the United States, what do the programs offer as far as a package? Is it full support, partial support, and when does the support kick in? Here at Drexel, we provide full support including tuition, stipend, conference travel, and health insurance. So as you can notice, it's a good package that we provide here at Drexel. Now, this slide talks about other things that you should choose about, that you should look at when you're choosing where to go. So to narrow down your search, you should be looking at the accreditation of the program, whether it's nationally accredited, and the faculty advisor, their research, and their lab that they are doing their research in. Also look at the rankings, the ABET, the U.S. News and World Report rankings. Every school in the United States is ranked as far as their research productivity, their student to faculty ratio, their support that they provide. So those are things that you should be looking into. Also, another good thing is to talk to the people who have done a PhD, and if possible, alumni from the institutions that interest you. Also, request information from schools on your shortlist. Better yet, go to those institution websites and look at where the faculty are publishing and what their current students are doing. Also, research a specific faculty advisor or lab, meaning go to the website, read about the faculty that you're interested in working with, perhaps even reach out to them and talk more about their research and explain your research interests. Attend webinars and online information sessions like this one, and use the United Education USA advising offices. So how many applications or how many schools should you apply to? The suggestion is 5 to 10 over a range of universities, but which universities? So look for a research match between the university and the professors in that university doing active research and your area of research interest. And also pay attention to the aspects of the rankings in these areas. Other things to consider are the size of the program. Large programs may be easier to get into. More colleagues can be a plus or a minus, but funding may be more difficult. Larger programs tend to fail out students at a higher rate, 50% or more. And in larger schools are harder to get the advisor you want. So keep that in mind, looking between the size of the program, large, medium, or smaller program. If it's a smaller program, you're most likely going to get more one-on-one work and mentorship with your faculty member. So that's something to consider when you're looking at various schools in the United States. Okay, so the application requirements. The general requirements will vary by program, but generally you need a GRE or a GMAT. Know which one is required. Make sure you investigate that with each of the schools. Either the TOEFL or the IELTS, unless you have or will have a degree from an English-speaking university. You need to provide a statement of purpose, and this is very important. One thing that we suggest is that when you're writing your statement of purpose, perhaps you should point out the type of research that you're doing and which faculty or faculties would you be interested in working with and why. That shows us that you've done your homework, that you see that you have a match with the faculty and your research interests, which would make you a better fit. Also, you need to provide 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, and these letters should come from PhDs. All transcripts from all the schools that you have gone to. If the transcript is not in English, you will be required to have it evaluated by a professional service. Some questions people ask, do I need a master's degree first? No. Another question, do I need work experience? You don't need this either. Okay, so what are the PhD admission standards? Meaning, what would help my chances of getting accepted? Having some research experience and being able to showcase that either in your statement or by providing perhaps some articles or presentations as evidence to show this research experience. Having a strong GRE or GMAT score as well as a high GPA. And by a high GPA, we're talking a 3.3 or plus. Strong letters of recommendation that speak to your motivation, aptitude for research, and if you are not a native speaker, your English language ability. Next, a good interview during the application process is beneficial. Universities often set up visits or Skype talks when deciding who to admit. So you might make it to the first cut of the evaluation process, and they might set up an interview with you. So that's an important process. Your ability to express the reasons for pursuing the PhD degree, you would put that in your statement of purpose, and you also would explain that in the interview process. Also, go visit the universities you are interested in. Personal interviews are important. So if you find a couple of institutions that you're interested in, and if you can go to those universities and meet with various faculty and current students, that would be beneficial. And lastly, a good fit with your research interests and the faculty of the institution. So you shouldn't just be looking at, oh, that's a good institution. I heard that's a good institution in the United States. I want to go to that institution. And you get there and there's no research faculty that's doing anything that you're interested in. That's not a good fit. It's better to go to an institution that has the faculty member that's doing the research that you have an interest in working with, rather than the institution. So look for institutions, but also look for the fit within the institution that matches your research interest. So international student information. English proficiency is key in obtaining a PhD in the United States. Know your visa types, J1 versus a F1. This chart shows you the difference. So for the F1, the source of funding, most students are eligible regardless of funding type. For the J1, students must have a large portion of funding provided by an external source, such as a home institution of government. For the on-campus employment for F1, on-campus employment during full-time studies, part-time when school is in session, and full-time during periods of recess. For the J1 visa, full-time studies, part-time when the school is in session, and full-time during periods of recess with permission. Requirement to return to the home country. For the F1, no requirement to return. Big plus. This is a big plus for PhD programs because you're likely doing research 12 months out of the year. For the J1, may be required to return under residence requirement. For the dependents, for the F1, dependents F2s are not eligible for employment. With the J1 visa, dependents of a J1, J2s are eligible to apply for permission to work in the United States through the duration of the primaries program. So those are just the subtle differences, but make sure you know your visa type. So now we've come to the end of the presentation, the formal presentation, and now we'll entertain questions and answers. You can just type them into the Zoom, and myself and my colleagues that are on the line will answer your questions. And I'm going to turn to the next slide that provides, while we're doing the question and answer, provides you some information on getting further information. So I see we have two participants, Alba and Marta. If you have any questions that you've not already asked and you would like to now, please type it in the chat. And if you don't have any more questions, please type that in the chat so that we know that we've answered all your questions today. And I just see Oscar joined us. Oscar, we've just finished the formal presentation, but if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Okay, so it seems like we don't have any further questions. We want to thank you for attending today. This session is being recorded, and if you would like a copy of it, I'm sure Kathy can provide that. Kathy, is there anything else you would like to say before we end today?
Thank you so much, Penny, for this presentation. If students have further questions, I will make sure that they are sent to you, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and best journeys on your decision for which PhD program to choose. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.